This is the bonus section podcast, episode number 86. Are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime? And that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break through. But in spite of all your self-development, you just can't seem to find the way up there. Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you trying to learn how to live the most fulfilling life possible. Now, to help you take immediate action, to get moving in a better direction at least, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com. We only put a couple episodes up there so you can knock out, print them out, look at them on your phone, whatever, and think. Go sit in a Starbucks, go sit in a quiet place, your favorite room, and just spend some time thinking in peace and quiet. Right? Or wherever you're comfortable, because that's when you really get into the subconscious of your mind. What matters to you? What needs to get done to get that thing? freethinkingtools.com. Okay? All right. Are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? Well, to give full due to my man, the late, great Zig Ziglar, great motivational speaker, you could Google Zig Ziglar and that line, are you a wandering generality or meaningful specific? And you'll probably come up with what I heard live. I was blessed before he passed to hear him live in the Boston Garden, right? And it was awesome. Zig was a spiritual guy who read the Bible daily, loved his wife dearly, and was just an awesome guy. Just somebody you wanted to listen to. And he spoke in a little bit of a southern twang, and I swallowed the hook whole listening to Zig. I just thought he was great. And he had that line that's of all the things I heard Zig say over the years, and this was way back in the day, and bought tapes and played them all the time and listened to them. And I just was really struck by that line, a wandering generality. Man, that sounded painful. To spend our life as a wanderer in a general way, lost at sea, lost in the ocean. I mean, think about that. Close your eyes for a second and say, am I a wandering generality? And that's, I think, right at the crux of really what gets us, right? So the second point here is that what Zig, I think, really stimulated me to think about was why? Why is generality so dangerous? I mean, don't we want to have that varied life? Don't we want to see all sorts of, different aspects of life, travel, see all these different things, general, varied. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this too. He talks about the need for consistency that juxtaposes against the need for variety. So general, variety, isn't that what we want? Well, sure, that's fun and serendipitous. But we really have to admit that when you are a generalist, you probably don't have any goals that are clear. And there's the danger. See, a wandering generality, as it relates to the word goal or goals, is critical. And the reason being, I remember also, and there's a lot of great teachers, there are a lot of great teachers that I learned a lot of this head stuff from. And another one that I was a big fan of that was a contemporary of Zig at the time that I was learning from them was Brian Tracy. And Brian Tracy, he's written several books that are kind of similar in their effort to really get you to understand the importance of goals and then how to achieve them. There's a lot of that information out there, a lot of great books, simple books, easy to read, easy to understand, but not so easy to train the brain to really do for itself. And that's why Maxwell Maltz's book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics, taught me how to get deep into my subconscious and program my subconscious. I don't know why I'm pointing to my chest. I think my subconscious hopefully is up here somewhere between my ears. But the point being is that I really wanted to understand how this all worked. Not to conquer the world per se and have amazing goals and run amazing businesses. Yes, it applies to all that, but just to kind of be happier, right? Because what Brian Tracy referenced in his book, Goals, and I believe it was Aristotle. So we start to get back into these, this Roman and Greek history where there are a lot of great philosophers. I just read something about the Stoics. There's a lot of great philosophy. There was a lot of great thinking going on there because they didn't have the interwebs to interfere with their thinking process, right? So there's a lot of thinking going on. And Aristotle, according to Tracy, comes up with this concept of teleological. Now, it's tough when I Googled the word teleological. It was a little bit hard to understand, but the way that Tracy explains it is pretty simple. It's really that we're goal-seeking organisms. That's just what we are. And Maltz takes that a little further in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics, to talk about we're goal-seeking like a guided missile. And that's what we're looking for. We need, and Napoleon Hill, really before both of them or all those people I just mentioned, he talks about a primary chief aim. So, this is a big deal. That we are goal-seeking organisms. We as humans. We with this conscious, subconscious battle that's going on in our head. We with the animal plus the higher thinking, thriving brain. Right? We need goals. We need them. We're desperate for them. And so I think that's what makes the word generality a smelling salt moment for me. Maybe I feel like a wandering generality because my primary chief aim, Napoleon Hill, or Aristotle, my teleological compass is off, right? I'm off. Because I don't have a clear, written, specific goal. Tracy goes on to, and many others do, and it's a little confusing as to where this study actually happened, but supposedly Harvard Business School did a study of its graduating seniors, and they asked them, how many of you have written goals and written plans to achieve them? So getting it out of the mind, through the arm, down onto paper. Now, maybe it's digital, but that act, I like the act of writing versus just typing because there's something magical about that. I don't know what it is, but it's magical. It really solidifies and clarifies and edits out all the noise and makes what's most important for your goal and a plan to achieve it very specific. See where I'm going here? Starting to move away from the wandering generalities in my brain, all the variety that I want, the distraction and all the ADD we blame it for, or the hyperfocus and the OCD at the other end of the spectrum. We're just all up in our heads with all this noise. Get it out of your head and onto paper and have a goal. So they did this at Harvard Business School. And they went back in 10 years later and looked at those people to see where they were at. And I forget the X times, how many X times more successful the people were, but it was big, really big. Now remember, they started off with a pretty ambitious bunch of people that were high achievers to begin with just to get through the front door, right? So they go back and study them, and the people that had these written goals were something like 10 times. I hate to be so patronizing because you hear 10X everywhere out there now, but they were many more times successful than the people that didn't have that. So even when you're academically and perhaps emotionally smart, you still need the very simple act of trying to be specific about your goal or your primary chief aim. And you can start with look, don't try to get perfect when you start setting these goals, because they won't be perfect and they'll change, and I'll get into that in a second here. But you need some sort of primary chief aim, even if it's, especially if I'm talking to you right now and you're in a really low point and you're struggling. How about you just get a goal for the day, for the hour? I mean, start small. If you have dropped into this really wandering general place, and worse, it's been exacerbated and it's turned into downright depression, anxiety, and you find yourself or perceive yourself to be deep in a hole, I'm telling you the way to start digging out is set one small, clear goal, have a primary chief aim for the smallest unit of time you can, and achieve it. And you'll be shocked. Don't dismiss it, the monster of anxiety. I talked about that in the last podcast episode. Go back an episode and see that. Why aren't you confronting the anxiety monster? You get some more tips there. But the monster of anxiety, saying, oh, so what? You won that little victory. So what? That's the anxiety monster in your head. Celebrate the small victory of the goal achievement, especially if you're in a hole in a very small unit of time. Take an hour. What could you do in 1 hour's time to move towards something that's a positive goal? Is it getting out of bed a little bit earlier? Is it taking a shower? Is it going for a walk? Is it getting some exercise? Is it Googling some new job opportunities? Is it considering moving to a new place? An hour, a unit of time to be a meaningful specific with a meaningful goal that is important to use. Look, unless you have real cognitive issues, disease, and you don't have this capacity. If that's the case, that is what it is medically and scientifically and biologically. I get it. But for the rest of us, nobody has stopped you from being able to think. So the act of thinking subconsciously and consciously happens all the time. And we are thinking, even in our lowest state, what if? What if this thing could happen for me? Big, small, little, whatever. What if? And so you're thinking about it already. Now, you're not going to get there in one quantum leap, as they say. You're going to get there inches, right? Inch by inch, it's a cinch, says the saying. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. So take a small unit of time, set that goal, and try to be a meaningful, specific with a primary aim moving towards it. And a small action step, not some big victory. I mean, really, like you watch any kind of athletic performance or if you ever knew how a movie got put together, you'd be like, holy crap, there's a lot of detail. Yeah, little battles, little inches, and all of a sudden there's a production. Stop looking at the totality or the finished product and being so naive to say, oh, I could never get there. Well, you can't even get the inch first. Let's get the inch and win. So this is why generality is so dangerous, because it can really pull us down into a hole. Now, once we start to set those goals, and so maybe we're winning some small ones, and then we have the courage to put a bigger one. Hey, someday I'd like to quit this job and become this other thing. So now the side hustle, as they call it, you're starting to do some homework on the side, and you're learning how to do that thing, whatever it might be. I'm not talking business. I'm talking sports. I'm talking whatever, life, travel. I want to be a traveler. I want to be an athlete. I want to be an actor. I want to write a book. Whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. That matters to you. And what happens is interesting along the way, because, you know, the major thing that you're thinking about is up here. It's here. But sometimes it comes out as other different interim goals. So the other question on the table that I was thinking about before I did this podcast was, does changing your goal hurt or help you? Well, if you don't take any action steps and let your body physically produce a positive chemical reaction to a small goal achievement, then always just changing the goals with no action steps certainly could hurt you. Because then you're just, I don't know, what are you patronizing yourself? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You don't take any action step, even for 15 minutes online, trying to Google something that's positive. Okay, well then that's going to hurt you because you're using an excuse to change your goals. And like I said before, you all know, because we're all, I don't know how, okay, but we're all, it's inbound in our wiring as to the one thing. I ask my kids this all the time when they were little, I still ask them, if you could do one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be? I didn't even ask them if you could make a living you'll make a living from what you love if you go all in. All in. Mentally. As they say, the saying goes, burn the bridges. That means mentally all in. It doesn't matter. There's no plan B. This is just what I'm going to do. It doesn't mean that I don't have to get a side job to put cash on the table. This is what I'm doing until I turn it into a living. So that changing of goals actually happens. Now, I always refer to in this podcast setting a North Star, that big goal. I would like to become an actor successful walking the red carpet in Hollywood. I would like to become an NHLer. I would like to start my own hedge fund, right? Those are all big, audacious, hairy goals, BHAGs as they call them, big, hairy, audacious goals in that order, right? BHAGs, that's what they call them. So they're out there and they're big. But there are a lot of little interim goals. Well, I'd just like to get through the week and do some homework on this and write down a general plan of how does somebody go about this. Okay, so that's a goal. So you move in that direction. Now, as you're doing that homework, as you're taking those action steps, other interim goals may change. And sometimes the big, hairy, audacious goal that was important to you suddenly isn't. But something related to the work you were doing, suddenly, somewhere buried deep inside of you, there was this other thing. You probably knew it was there. Maybe it was living in your subconscious. Maybe you dreamed about it occasionally, but you just dismissed it. And all of a sudden, that comes out. And all of a sudden, you're like, geez, thank you for setting that goal and going on this journey, but I've got to admit this thing. See, that's where changing the goal helps you, because you're becoming a more authentic version of yourself as you find deep within you, deep-rooted, deep-seated desires and goals. See, because these action steps are releasing a a more authentic version of you. Jordan Peterson in all his work calls it the releasing of the potential of the ancestral father. What the heck does that mean? I know, I'm not getting sexist, okay? I'm just saying this concept of history, who we are, all the components of our history, where we come from, the type of people, the tribes, the survival, the struggle, the talents, the abilities, it's built into us by the time we arrive. So to release that, these action steps are actually awakening the giant within you, as Tony Robbins calls it. I get it now. It is awakening something. Get the chills just thinking about that. But if you don't start with these little small bites to become a meaningful specific, to start walking up a ladder, even if you can't see the big North Star yet, you know it's there because it was born inside of you. You know it is there. Stop denying that it is. Oh, but it's not me. It's everybody else. Well, that's a goofy voice. That's a goofy voice, but it does exist in all of us. It's the gremlin. It's the anxiety monster. You call it whatever you want. It's there. It's the doubt. So we have all of these opposing forces, and that maybe is the tragedy of life, that we've got this wonderful thing inside of us, and maybe that's all what your life is about, cracking the code to find the best version of you, the biggest goal that is born into you. Maybe that's the game, to overcome all of the pitfalls and to find the thing. And I'm starting to believe it's not so hard. I know, easy for me to say at my age and my stage, right? At my age and my stage, I sound like an old head talking, to somebody who might be in their 20s listening to this, like, oh, it's so easy, you don't know me. You're right. But I do know you because I've been there, and I wish somebody spoke this kind of truth to me before, because it's simple common sense wisdom, and it's everywhere. And if you trust it and you have this dialogue with yourself, it's like stunning how easy things start to feel to you. So the bonus section of this podcast is that the key is to consistently stop what you're doing. Stop your life. Stop it cold. Stop what you're doing and ask yourself if you feel like you're wandering aimlessly without a clear goal. So it's just, see what I mean by freethinkingtools.com? Go out, print these things, sit down. That's the act of getting you to stop what you're doing. Go to a place. And by the way, the best tip I got from Maxwell Maltz's book was you want to start to program the subconscious or release this inner giant, this ancestral father wiring in you. You want to release it in the most relaxed state you can. So when you're working on your head stuff, the 4 or 5 inches between your ears, you want to be as close to a relaxed state as you can. That's why I say go to your happy place. Even better if at the end of the day or after a long workout where you're forced to physically be relaxed, that's when you really start to unroot this stuff, right? But you have to stop what you're doing consciously and going through life to survive. Stop and spend some time asking yourself, do I feel aimless? Do I feel like a wandering generality? And if so, why? Have I lost a primary chief aim? Have I lost my meaningful specific? Because it's very easy to reset your meaningful specific. Don't fret the action steps. Don't fret the how. It's not the point. Set it. Because it's stunning how the universe will help you find all the resources to edit out the noise and only start to be resourceful around the things you will need for that chief aim. If not, the universe and all of its wonderfulness and all of its resources, it can't come to you because it doesn't know what to bring you. You follow? It doesn't know what to bring you. So you need a meaningful, specific primary chief aim or goal so that the universe can say, ha ha ha, we know what to bring you. And if you keep asking for it or imagining it right before you go to bed or after you relax in your happy place, it's even faster. That's the accelerant. Let me go back and talk about this. This is one of my favorite subjects because it is a free thinking tool, like I said, that absolutely works. It's worked for me. It works for my kids. It works for my clients. It just works. And it starts by asking yourself, are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? I give full credit to that line to the late, great Zig Ziglar. It was his line. Go Google Zig Ziglar. Go Google that line and you'll see him giving it authentically himself. So you can hear it direct from the soldier that brought it to me. 2, why generality is so dangerous. It really is, because you're a teleological or goal-seeking organism. So without specific targets, generality will drown your need for a goal. 3, does changing your goal hurt or help you? Well, if you're always changing goals because somebody else is doing this and it looks good, well, that's whimsical nonsense. And that means it's bad for you and it is hurting you because you're probably not taking any action steps because that goal doesn't matter to you. 4, the bonus section is that the key is to consistently stop. Just stop your life. Stop what you're doing and ask yourself if you feel like a wandering, aimlessly goalless person, okay? Without that goal, you're in trouble. Just stop your life and ask it. Let me just summarize it this way. In the words of the late, great Zig Ziglar, why be a wandering generality when you can be a meaningful specific? It sounds so much more interesting. The critical importance of this challenging question is based on our need as goal-seeking organisms to have a primary chief aim, even though oftentimes we might change that goal when we recognize that something else inside of us, this giant, this ancestral father, is now releasing, and it's more important to us. That's how you find it. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in the direction of these goals, because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com, and we give you instant access. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We also post our content on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the bonus section channel, the bonus section channel. Get on over there. I post the YouTube content there with the video attached. So if you need to see me and hear me at the same time, because that's the way you learn, come on over. And if you like this content, please just give me one of those little thumbs up, because the algorithm likes that and it'll share it with other people. And that's my goal, to be a person for as many people as I can. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you join that mission of becoming a person for others and share the content with people that you know, that you care about, so that they get the help they need from you, not me. Maybe this stimulates the conversation for you to be a positive influence in somebody's life. I'd love that. I don't even need to know it. I know it happens, though. But remember this. I sign off the same way in this podcast, on the bonus section, every single time the same way. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on yourself and a better plan to achieve your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks.